All right, let's talk about Tua, who, had this really rough stretch, throwing 6 picks in the previous 2 games heading into, going to Atlanta. Definitely wanted to get, kind of back on track. And I sort of defended him in my 2 film studies I made for both of those games. Not to say he was great in either of them, but just I thought that there was maybe too much criticism getting thrown on the quarterback, which does tend to happen when things go wrong. We saw much better situation here for the Dolphins. The entire team played better, and I think we saw the Tua of old. 4 touchdowns, no picks. Let's get into what went right for him, starting off with just what you expect from the Dolphins offense. This play, zone coverage, you see these 2 routes that are going from the offense's right to the middle of the field. When this play begins, setup routes are very important, especially against zone coverage. You need multiple guys to run a route effectively. So here, that is what's happening with the underneath route, right? Multiple Atlanta players are moving more over the middle of the field. So what does that mean for Tua? Well, this means that it has been opened up that he can throw the ball down the field if he wants to. Of course, you have to make sure you still get it over those Atlanta players. However, look at this really nice throw from Tua. He does get it over them. Jalen Waddle makes a nice catch, able to pick up some more yards, and they're able to pick up a big gain right there. It's just really good stuff by this entire Dolphins offense. And again, this is what we're used to seeing from Miami, right? This is kind of the typical Miami playbook. And so seeing it here is kind of what makes you feel like, okay, if you're a Dolphins fan, this season has been a complete mess, but maybe you don't blow it up. Maybe you don't cut Tua and take the $100 million cap hit, which they couldn't do anyway because they're already over the cap for next year. So that's not even actually an option the way people were making it out to be. But, the fact that Tua will be on the roster almost certainly next year, this is the stuff that makes you say, okay, well, this is why you gave him the contract in the first place. This next play, it's going to be a zone coverage concept once again. That's a lot of what Atlanta's doing because Miami was running the ball. We can talk about that in just a second. But you're running the ball. Well, then what you want to do is run play action off of it. Jalen Waddle going over the middle with the linebacker stepping in. Due to the play action, potentially something could get open. Watch as when Tua takes the snap. Going to hit Jalen Waddle in stride. Again, Tua always great at timing these types of plays. But the other thing that's going to work about this play is, Jalen Waddle obviously has this explosive speed. You have the safety, Jesse Bates, who's a great player, a guy who's had some really good years for Atlanta. He's just being a bit too aggressive here. He steps in a bit too much. And again, when this Dolphins offense is operating as it can, when Tua and Waddle are operating at the height of their powers, well, what happens? Well, watch how with Bates just being a bit out of position, that's all Waddle needs. He blows by everybody else, picks up a touchdown. So that was already going to be a big play, but good tackling probably gets him down around a 30-yard line. Instead, you pick up those extra 30 yards and get into the end zone. And again, while it was a mistake, it was a slight mistake that results in a huge play because of just, how well executed that was from Tua and from Waddle. Also, I brought up the running game, so let's head over there now. So this play, again, this sometimes just happens in football, which is, we always kind of look at it as, well, offensive line's not playing well, so we expect it to play poorly for every game, but that's just not how it works. You're going to have even if you haven't been playing great, you're going to have your games that, it works better. They've been, according to PFF, the 3rd worst run blocking team on the year, but they played well in this one. So this play, you see the blocking concept on the screen. Ollie Gordon, who had a nice game, going to be getting the ball here. And watch how first things first, this is well blocked by Miami. And again, sometimes this just happens where, for whatever reason, the right guys on the right day are able to make the play work. Gordon had a nice game in this one. There is a linebacker who's going to kind of try and get off of his current block and doing a decent job at that. That's probably the one area you could say, if you're an Atlanta fan, has a chance of a stop happening. But watch as Gordon's able to kind of make a nice move and, also lowers the shoulder. They were kind of using him as a bit of a short yardage back. I thought he played well. Obviously, Devon Achane is your guy. He's the one you want to run your offense through in the running game. But you know what? Having someone who you can kind of throw change-ups out there, that helps a lot. And also, hey, having Achane not take as many hits, that's going to help keep him healthy for a whole season. So him playing well works. But again, it's all about blocking, and they blocked well. But also, heading back to Tua, this was not just Tua hitting open guys. This is a really good play from Tua. So first, Zone coverage concept, first down and goal, but also keep in mind, 18 seconds left and no timeouts for the Miami Dolphins. So that's huge, right? Technically, you can get tackled in bounds because you could just spike it, but if that happens, you're basically just conceding that you're going to have to just take 3 points if that works. So you have these two kind of over the middle routes trying to get into a gap in coverage, and really the goal is there's a big enough gap that when you hit your receiver, they're able to then turn around and pick up a touchdown. When Tua takes the snap, he's first going to look towards his right, and again, could you try and force this one? You could, but you certainly don't want to. You don't want to walk away with nothing when you're up 7 points, right? So not the right call to throw it there. Malik Washington on the other side of the field is probably more open. You could certainly try this if he was looking in that direction, but that wasn't Tua's first read. So Tua's gonna have to try and get outside the pocket, and also watch what Washington does. Watch if both of them just keep fighting, keep looking. Washington finds a little bit of space towards the sideline, and if that was at the 1, hey, you got out of bounds, you would have had another opportunity to run another play, but ends up getting a touchdown there. So now it's 17-3, and that really set the tone for the entire second half. So that's a great play from Tua, right? Knowing your situation, knowing the pocket, and knowing that you're not going to take a sack if you try and get outside the pocket, because that would have been a disaster, and ultimately being able to get a touchdown instead. Just really strong stuff by this Dolphins offense. This play as well, so it's interesting where you have 3 wide receivers it's man coverage, right? And there's a single safety deep, but you have 3 wide receivers who are lined up towards the offense's right. And what's the importance of that? Well, if you're a safety, what do you think is probably happening here? You're going to be like, okay, let's make sure I'm defending the 3 receivers instead of the 1 receiver, right? Let's just trust my corner on the other side of the field can get the job done here. So really something like that is probably what's better to look at. This is kind of what you're going to end up seeing on this play. Again, you don't know that going in if you're a play caller, but you have a pretty good idea. That's what the guess is. So Mike McDaniel's going to dial up the exact perfect play call here. First, the 1 receiver at the line is going to run over the middle. The goal here is to get the defender who is covering him to also follow him, clear out those 2 players. Then Tua is going to simply take the snap and flip it to the halfback, which, again, in theory, there is a defender who can make this play, but you have an offensive lineman doing a great job at staying right at the line of scrimmage. You can't block more than a yard, he just can't go more than a yard past the line of scrimmage due to being an offensive lineman until a forward pass has been made. So he has to be careful there. But ultimately, he makes the block, and because of that, it is a relatively easy touchdown there for Miami. Just, again, perfect play call in the perfect situation. Got to give credit to the players for executing. Also got to give credit to the coach and the coaching staff in general for dialing up the right play, putting the players in positions to succeed, and ultimately Miami able to pull off this victory. Again, what does this mean going forward? I don't know. They're 2-6, so even if they were the best team in football, being able to go on a run to make the playoffs starting 2-6 is going to be difficult, right? However, at least going forward, again, you do have some time to play. I mean, if you're Miami, you're like, hey, we have 9 games. Let's show what we can do. Show something. You're kind of coaching for your jobs. Everyone assumes McDaniel will be gone. They play on Thursday against Miami. Maybe a chance to get some life, or maybe this is just a fun game and a lost season, but we will see. But either way, I think at the very least it shows to me like there is talent here. They're not going to play like this every week. It just, there isn't enough talent there. But if they can block, they look good. And to me, that just shows for like the Tua of it all. I think if you get the offensive line down, you'll start to see the Tua of old emerge. But for now, that's kind of where they're at. So yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.